I welcome you all to the second day of the 8th MASLD conference. I hope that after yesterday's long deliberations and academic feast, you have had a good night's sleep. So today also lots of interesting sessions are lined up, and we begin with a session why MASLD is so much common and increasing in India. So MASLD crisis in India, that's the name of the session. And I would like to invite our chairpersons and moderators for this session. The chairpersons are Dr. Bharat Kumar Gupta, Dr. S.R. Agarwal, Dr. Deepak Agarwal, Dr. Shantam Mohan, Dr. Amitava Goswami, and Dr. Sunil Dajij. I request all of you to come to the dais and take your places here. The moderators for this session would be Dr. V.G. Mohan Prasad and Dr. A.C. Anand. So without wasting any time, I would also like to introduce the first speaker for this session is Dr. S P Singh. You have heard him yesterday. He needs no introduction in this forum. So he would be talking about MASLD phenotype in India. How is it lean versus the obese phenotype? Dr. S P Singh. Yeah.
Good morning. I don't know why, yesterday it was urban versus rural, today it is lean versus obese. The topics, look similar, but I find this very peculiar that more than 10 years ago, more than a decade ago, we had published this, the lean-NASH conundrum, because we somehow were very uncomfortable when the word lean came up. This word lean maybe came up from the Kolkata NAFL study, where they spoke about NAFL in lean, husky, skinny population, malnourished population. It was around 11%. From there it took off. But I thought a few years ago the entire country was lean. And now the entire country is almost becoming obese. So you see, I'm not comfortable with this lean versus obese NAFL, because then you start, at that time I had said, you start speaking of lean duodenal ulcer, obese versus obese duodenal ulcer, lean pregnancy, obese pregnancy, and I mean, it is, endless. And then you had a lot of problem with definition. The study from Kolkata used the cutoff, BMI less than 25 as lean. The diabetologists, when they first came up, for them lean was less than somewhere around 18 or so. Below 18 was lean. And now you have a mixed, when people speak lean, they speak in the same breath lean, non-obese and so on. So it is like, you just give a diktat, okay, from today all this disease becomes MASLD. It becomes MASLD. Overnight NAFLD became MASLD. Then, no, it is MASLD. So now all of you, and it is a diktat, if you send a paper with NAFLD title, it will be rejected. You have to send it with MASLD. This is not science, this is politics. So this is what I said about the lean NASH thing also. Now, before I proceed further, this is a bit about, what sort of a lean population we have among the NAFLD population from this country. This is from the ICON-D study, or now it has become ICOM-D. From north zone, as expected, you have less lean people. But gradually, as you go up to the northeast, 1/4 of their NAFLD population, as per the ICON-D, they were lean NAFLD. So I think you understand how this is changing. And if you look at now, if you do a study from Delhi or that Ballabgarh, there will be very few lean people, very few lean NAFLD. So we had done this study about a decade ago to compare lean, is it an outlier? What is the difference between the so-called lean NAFLD and obese NAFLD? what is the burden, and we use the cutoff of 23 BMI, right? And this was done, we have around by now about 10,000 NAFLD patients data bank. From that we had picked up consecutive people. Then we studied the anthropometric, biochemical and metabolic profiles of these people. And we also compared the lean with the healthy controls also, not just with the obese people. Lean NAFLD versus lean healthy and lean NAFLD versus obese, right? So about 1,300 NAFLD patient data was studied, and we found that about 11% of these were lean. We also had included 166 lean healthy subjects with normal ultrasound and with normal transaminase. And between the lean population and the non-lean, you can see when you compare the anthropometry, it's obvious. I mean, they are obese, so they'll have higher BMI, they'll have a higher waist, they'll have higher. So that is expected. That is not what we wanted to know. And when we look at the metabolic profile, obviously, this is the lean population versus the non-lean, lean NAFLD versus non-lean NAFLD. And here again, if you looked at the cholesterol, triglyceride, HDL, the difference was not significant. But yes, there was a marginal difference when you looked at the prevalence of metabolic syndrome, the insulin values, the insulin resistance, HOMA-IR values. When we looked at the LFT in these patients again, between the lean NAFLD and the non-lean NAFLD, I'm not going to tell you from literature. I'm going to speak about my experience with lean versus non-lean, right? So here also there was no difference between the liver function test between lean NAFLD and non-lean NAFLD. When we looked at histology also, steatosis, lobular inflammation, ballooning, fibrosis, and NASH, the difference was not significant. Now this is a comparison of the lean NAFLD versus lean healthy people who didn't have, who had normal liver on ultrasound. And here you can see there were differences between them. Obviously, between the anthropometry and especially between they had more. If you compare them with the lean healthy, their HOMA value, their insulin value, all these, they were different. They were more insulin resistant compared to lean people. So obviously, among the lean people, they had subtle differences. But so what? Because ultimately, when you compare, you are going to look at the histology. Everyone speaks. It depends. You keep on shifting goalposts. When it suits you, you will talk of LFT. When it suits you, you will talk of histology. So it all depends upon your muscle power. And your paper will be published. You send the same data, remove the names, S P Singh, S P Mishra, it will be rejected. Same data. You have not done liver biopsy. You are talking about only transaminase, right? This is what it is. So in a study, the mean BMI of NAFLD patient was, yes, higher than healthy lean subject. That is obvious. And around 80% lean NAFLD had deranged lipid profile. However, when lean NAFLD were compared with healthy lean control, there was significant in the lipid profile. So basically what we found was there was hardly then, this is over a decade ago, there was hardly any difference. The only difference was, P 0.05. That is, there is a trend towards greater fibrosis in lean NAFLD when compared to non-lean NAFLD. So people will say your sample size is small, but you know, all the studies which are published earlier, they are with smaller sample sizes, and there this question don't arise. And the mean values of serum transaminases were similar. So 1/10 of our population, NAFL population then were lean. They had lesser magnitude of insulin resistance, and they were trend towards greater fibrosis. So, in the meantime, we saw no one was bothered about such, enunciations, about, that it is not an outlier. People went on publishing. We were still not convinced that this is true. So, we did this study. We thought that, let us also look at the gut microbiota, the genetic polymorphisms, the genes. From the beginning, and even today we are working on a lot of issues, we believe that yes, if you do a statistical analysis of genetic polymorphism between lean subjects and non-lean NAFL subjects, there will be differences. But these differences are of no consequence when you think of management issues, right? Because earlier we had done a subject, we found after marriage, like there was a slide yesterday, that marriage is a risk factor for NAFL. And it is 100% true. Because we found, when we look at the general population, 12% females had fatty liver and 25% males had fatty liver. But when we looked at fatty liver in the husbands of ladies with fatty liver, compared to 25%, the thing shot up to 70%. 70% of husbands of fatty liver ladies had fatty liver. Then we looked at ladies, women, same thing. Sorry, in the men it was 100%. Any lady who has NAFLD, you look at the husband, and I tell you, 100% will have NAFLD. When we looked at the ladies, normal general population 12%, but in the population where the husband had NAFLD, it was 70%. So this is what that paper said. We again did this study with the same intention to show that, that whether it is to see whether it was a distinct pathophysiological entity. We looked at different aspects, bile acids, we looked at the gut microbiota, we looked at the histology. This is, again, here also, if you look at the anthropometry, obviously, these people were leaner, so naturally, whatever differences you expect as regards BMI and other things. But when you look at the biochemistry, the lipid profiles and the other things, there's no difference between this population. Again, this is, I'm telling you, after a decade. When we looked at the various risk factors of developing NAFL, it was the same in this. And then we compared the non-invasive scores of liver fibrosis in lean versus non-lean. There was no difference. And we concluded, yes, I have not given the details of the gut microbiota study for a simple reason. I don't understand much of gut microbiota. There were subtle differences, but obviously the paper did get published with whatever numbers we had and with whatever things we had. But I understand, I didn't have faith in those small numbers myself. So even though there were subtle differences, I personally didn't hear that, and I won't be able to explain those data also to you. The differences in anthropometric parameters between lean and obese were as expected. As I mentioned you earlier, serum HDL and triglycerides, the important parameters to define metabolic syndrome, were same between them. There was no difference in hepatic fibrosis, and genotype did not influence in our study. There was no correlation between fibrosis and the PNPLA3 GG homozygosity, though this was more prevalent in lean NAFL. Differences in beta diversity across all groups and significant differences in bacterial species were also associated with fibrosis in both lean and obese NAFL patients. So lean NAFL patients, this is probably my last slide, lean NAFL patients were also found to have unique gut microbial signatures, while beta diversity significantly differed across all groups. I don't understand much of this, so please excuse me for this. differential expression of gut microbiota and genetic polymorphism could underlie the pathogenesis of lean NAFLD. That is why some leaner people also get NAFLD. I don't believe it's an outlier. This is what I have to say. Thank you for a patient hearing.
Thank you. We can have one or two quick questions.
So do you think, hello, sir, from the dice. Sir, do you think sarcopenia is the cause of progression of liver disease in lean NASH? You see sarcopenia in lean patients, one of the contributory factors in progression of fibrosis.
Yeah, I can't tell you the data, but yes, we do see sarcopenia in lean patients.
Sir, Dr. Prasad here. Hi, sir. Brilliant talk as usual. So my question is, the gut microbiome is different in the lean versus obese, which has been proven in many studies and again in your study. So, but the fibrosis progression has not been different in both the groups. Any explanations, sir? That means, do the gut microbiome have a profound influence on the progression of NASH and fibrosis?
Yeah, that we don't know because see, for that you need long-term studies, real long-term studies. We don't have long-term studies from India on as such whatever, NAFLD. We don't have much data about simple NAFLD. Now to have study on at a single time you see what the gut microbiota is and from there you deduce that this is responsible. See, 10 days later or 10 days before the gut microbiota might have been different, you understand? In your lean NAFLD patient or even in your normal, obese NAFLD patient, if you look at the gut microbiota, today it is something. 10 days ago it was probably different and maybe 10 days later it would be different. That one single point, the gut microbiota defining what is going to happen to this patient, I don't believe in such studies. Or doing that also. And I don't have the money, each patient we did from a pocket. No ICMR funding. From my students paid some money, it was his thesis, dissertation, and I gave him some from my pocket. So this was the study was done. We spent about 6-7 lakhs on this, but it requires huge funding, 12,000-15,000 per patient.
Thank you, Dr. S P Singh. Organizers are asking us not to allow any more questions.
Thank you.
So we'll move on to the next session. That is a panel discussion on increasing incidence of MASLD disorders in India. Where are we going wrong? And the experts for this session are Professor Y.K. Chawla and Dr. Gaur Chaudhary. And the panelists are Dr. R.K. Dhiman, Dr. Ajay Duseja, Dr. Anup Saraya, and Dr. Ajit Bhadoria.